We got another Where's America podcast with my family, Auntie Dawn and Uncle Terry, and they have a great story. They were a gravel pit giants, unstoppable rock and rollers of the baby giant rock and rollers of the gravel pit. But we're gonna get their story, but when it started, what they thought of business when they're younger, how it changed, and of course, the darkest hour, because every person I've talked to who's successful or has done something great or exceptional always have a darkest hour, and how you overcame it. So let's start from the beginning. Like, how did you guys meet? And then, where did you guys meet? How did you guys meet? And then when did you start going into the gravel pit industry? And how did you get part of that?
School was good for us.
Yeah, we met in, I think grade school.
Grade one.
Yeah.
Grade one?
Grade one.
No.
Yeah.
Then what, were you picking on her?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. See, this is so cool. Isn't this cool? That's what I like about this. Things I don't get to know.
I don't think we really noticed each other until we were in junior high.
And then you started sniffing around, Uncle Terry?
No, I could never catch her. She was always too athletic. I could never catch her.
Yeah.
So this was New Sarepta then?
New Sarepta.
Yeah.
And you were there?
Yeah. Not a big pool of people, but yeah, we were lucky.
Graduating class of 24.
No, 27.
Oh.
27, I think it was. Yeah. But yeah, and started seriously dating in grade 12.
So then, like, you guys were in the same school the whole time?
Yeah,
And then was it like...
Terry was always in the LEAP class. Like, so if there was ever a split class for Smarty Pants, then Terry always went up.
So you were a nerd. And you were athletic.
Yeah.
Dangerous combination, right? Dangerous combination. So then, that's pretty crazy. I didn't know that. I didn't know. And what about Grandma? Was she like... did Grandma have the broom and like, get out of here, mixed boy?
No, she loved
Yeah, the
Terry.
Wiersmas, not the Wiersmas.
Yeah, maybe not, but no, she loved Terry. You helped her out and did stuff for her. I don't know why. She really liked you.
Yeah.
You were good to her. Yeah.
Always gave me the good food.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what my dad said. She could always get my dad over to with food. Yeah, something's not right in the house.
Yeah. Let me feed you, and then can you help me with something? Yeah.
Cool. So you guys, high school sweethearts, you graduate, you guys are dating, and then...
And she left.
You broke up with him?
No, I went to France for a year for school. And
Did you?
Yeah.
These are things I don't know.
Yeah, you were just a wee... No, you weren't born yet. You were not born yet. Yeah, I went to France for a year. We stayed together, and then I got back that summer, and then Terry went to Ontario to go to school.
Yeah.
For mechanical engineering.
So the whole family's engineers.
Well, this one didn't quite finish.
I started it, but they finished it.
Yeah, the boys finished it. Yeah.
Cool. So okay, so you're you went to Ontario. You just got back. And then what happened? So how old are you at this age?
Still pretty young. I think 19.
That'd be 19 or so.
19. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I came back, worked for a couple years, and
I went back to school to go become a pilot for a while.
And you did?
Did.
Finish?
You became a pilot?
Yeah. I had a job and everything, so that was cool.
So and then what did you go to France school for?
Just to learn the language.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you did more like a travel thing.
Yeah, well, like I went to school and I did classes, but it was basically kind of a repeat of my grade 12.
Okay.
Yeah, and then learned the language, came back, worked. Then Terry decided mechanical engineering maybe wasn't for him, so then he went to become a pilot. Yeah. Finished that, and then he was going to move up north. And
what kind of pilot? Like for the big, like 747s, or more like the smaller planes to go?
It started off generally smaller. It was I had got a commercial instrument rating, multi-engine, all the little tickets that you need to start a career in doing that. And I had one job flying skydivers for a summer, and then it was it wasn't a great time. But I was 92, I think.
I think so.
And they weren't hiring anything for pilots really, and Don didn't want to had no interest in going up north to work on a baggage ramp at some float plane.
I did say I would go, but I wasn't going to go if we weren't married.
Oh,
Yeah.
so get that rock on that hand.
Yeah.
I think just more of a commitment. Like, to me, that was more important.
Yeah,
at
so
that point.
then we got married.
Yeah. And then we didn't have to go up north.
Ooh, nice strategy. Auntie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice strategy.
Yeah, I just think there was no jobs for you at that time, even to go up north. And
Yeah,
to
you
make
really
that-
had to grow up in the industry at that point if you wanted a job. You needed a dad or an uncle or something like that was already there to help you get that first job and didn't have any of those connections. And so it was like, well, you're out of school and you wanted to start doing something. And I kind of liked what we were doing, you know, for a family business, what my mom and dad had started.
Right.
And so I just started at the lowest level jobs kind of thing that
But you had
that we
work,
had.
like, it's not like it
I
was a
worked
new,
there. I
yeah,
worked there every summer and stuff like that.
yeah. Since
Oh,
you were
so
14.
similar to how I grew up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
since he was 14.
Your
I
parents
think.
give you all the shitty jobs. And,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
what
You like sweeping, Ryan? Like,
Yeah.
do I?
Do
I do now.
Yeah, that was kind of the same thing, right?
Cool. And then, can you explain what your family business was? How what did they specifically do? So they obviously did gravel, but for what kind of direction of gravel? Was it for solely pavement? Was it?
Sure, yeah. Like, and I don't know, because the way the company started with my mom and dad, is a pretty cool story as well, where they had a small little deposit of gravel in the back pasture, basically, you know, only like a mile from where we live right now.
Okay.
And dad was selling a little bit of sand with using the farm tractor to load it out and using one of the old grain truck sort of thing. And then he had met a guy that worked for Standard General, and he's like, yeah, Leduc is doing a bunch of expansion, a bunch of new subdivisions going up. There's some good winter work kind of thing. I want you to supply us with the sand that they need for putting all the underground services in the wintertime. And dad's like, geez, I don't know. And the guy's like, yeah, you'll be fine kind of thing. So then that was the start. And started with, you know, one farm tractor, an old truck, and another truck, and another truck. And they went from single axles to tags to tandem axles. And, you know, and back then trucks weren't quite what they are nowadays. Like, you know, lots of them were, he was buying GMC pickup trucks that had like 427 gas engines in them that didn't last very long. And they became experts at swapping out engines and stuff. And the trucks kept getting bigger and bigger. And life was good for those first couple of years, for sure. And hectic, and we see all these old pictures and stuff that are really cool. And then there was another local guy that was selling some gravel, and dad was selling sand. And all of a sudden, this other local guy started selling sand and became a direct competitor kind of thing. And dad's like,
Yeah.
he's like, if you're gonna start selling sand like I was, I'm gonna start selling gravel like you were. And so dad made a trip to Ponoka, because for us, we all started, it was all agriculture. Yeah, we've always had cattle.
Gotcha.
And dad was really, he would judge cattle and showing cattle and all that kind of stuff as well. And so through that circuit, he knew people that were down in the Ponoka area. So sort of an hour to the south.
Right.
And he was pretty sure they had gravel on their land, this other family called the Matikas. So and I can, and then the way I've seen my dad do business, I just can just imagine that he went down there one afternoon, probably had lunch with them,
A couple beers.
and then probably had a few beers and probably stayed for supper.
Yeah.
And that was to become then our first gravel pit, was down on Highway 2 South. When you come to the overpass, it says Matika Overpass. Like, that's it. That's where the first pit was.
Sick.
And everybody's like, what in the hell are you doing? You can't haul gravel from that far away.
So watch
Because
it.
at that point, the gravel was still a bunch of gravel sort of closer to Edmonton. And he's like, well, if it's too far, then I'll just build a bigger truck kind of thing. So then he went up in the city and was talking with some guys, and they designed the first tri-axle wagon. And he took the wagon idea from the way that they had bale wagons on the farm. And it's like, well, no, let's just make it bigger and put a big box on it. And they had all sorts of issues with like the Department of Transportation and getting licensing all figured out and axle weights and that kind of stuff. And they got this thing on the road, and those first trailers, that style is still on the road today. That wagons, and then it grew from a triaxle wagon to a quad, and bigger boxes and more.
So
boxes.
you guys are kind of like the foundation of dump trucks.
For some of
them,
for some certain
He should
styles,
have
kind of
patented
thing, he was the driving force behind that expansion into the new styles. And then later on, working with another local, a really good friend of his, Marvin Neufeld. They worked together and really helped Marvin develop a side dump trailer to go even bigger again.
Like, let me just grasp this. So he should have patented this.
Yeah, it'd been better for us.
Yeah, it would have been better.
Yeah.
So your dad was the driving force of basically a certain type of dump truck that is still used today. It was his idea because Panoka was too far away. Like, this is like America didn't get their claws in there. Like your dad, whoop, this is what we need.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was an idea
for
from the farm, and he just expanded it.
Well, that sucks.
Yeah, to make the financial feasibility of hauling gravel that far.
Yeah.
Like, there wasn't like these massive, huge dump trucks like back then.
No, they would have been. Most stuff was done with tandems or little pup trailers where you'd call it like a stiff neck, just a trailer with two axles in the back. And
Kind of what they use in Ecuador. Like, they got big dump trucks, but like to do most of the stuff local, it's like these little tiny trucks.
yeah. No, and so like I said, like the earlier trucks, they were gas engines and stuff, so they weren't powerful enough to pull the bigger trailers and stuff. So then there was the big highway trucks with diesels and stuff, and then just coming into the 80s then, and was a big. We used a lot of Mack trucks back then.
Yeah, I remember. That's what happened.
Last a long
Mack trucks,
time
nice truck.
and good power, and they had a good reputation for reliability and all that. And then they kept putting on bigger and bigger trailers, and they worked those suckers hard. But they worked well, and there's some really cool times there, like 79, 1980 kind of thing. Dad working with a lot of the other truckers and having people coming together working with us. There was a fleet of, like, back in that days, for us it was a big thing. Like, they had 13 or 14 trucks, and they all matched, and they it was pretty cool.
So that was Mixcor's fleet.
So that was L&T.
So it started off with my dad's name, Lurn Mix Trucking, and then it was L&T Mix Sand and Gravel. So Lorne and Tina, my mom.
Yeah.
And then it was that for a long, long time. It was, took quite a while before it ever changed to Mixcor to what
2002.
what our company was. Yeah.
So yeah.
And then they're just giving her shit, and things are going fast and great. And 1980 is the national energy policy, or 80 or 81 or whatever it was, and the economy tanked in Western Canada into recession and stuff, and all of those struggles that they had. And if you want to talk darkest hours, that was truly darkest hours for those guys, because then, not just companies going under, like, there'd be jobs where they had supplied gravel to, because the Nisku Industrial Park at that time was going through this huge expansion, becoming what it is today, sort of thing. And then it just became tumbleweeds.
Yeah, I remember your dad saying that they had delivered gravel and gone there to see if they could get paid for the gravel, and everything was locked.
Gates are closed and everybody's gone.
Everybody's gone.
They just left town.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
And so, yeah, I think those are moments.
How old were you when that happened?
Oh, in 1980, so I was like 11, 12 years old. For me,
You get insulated.
I was completely insulated. I thought life was just great as a 12-year-old kind of thing. As long as I had a skidoo to drive in the wintertime and play some baseball in the summer kind of thing, life was good. And had no idea as to the depth of the struggles that they were going through. Then all of a sudden, everybody's foreclosing on loans and buildings and whatnot, and they had this big, huge building and all of these trucks and lots of loaders and equipment already and stuff.
Debt, or
and carrying a bunch of debt, and then all of a sudden the bank is like, they're losing. People are foreclosing on loans and all that kind of stuff, and the bank gave them a call, mom and dad a call, and it's like, yeah, we're going to call this loan. And it's like, well, why? Like, we're making payments. And they're like, no, we're calling the loans. So Dad was like, not real big deal. They just went and kind of cleaned up the yard, took some stuff to the auction, got the cash they needed, paid it off kind of thing. And then the bank kind of looked and it's like, oh, these are the only guys that have paid anything off. Let's call all their loans. And because for the bank, it was just about, they were trying to get their hands on cash so they wouldn't go under either. And then that's when the local bank manager that they had, really went to bat for them. And it's like, no, we'll fly to Toronto if we have to. Like, this is crap. This is a good company and they're paying all their loans kind of thing. Don't call it and try to kill them just because they're the only ones that might give you some money.
Right.
And let them just continue on with their business. So there was, that's where they really learned the value of having these really strong partners in business. And that's not always a customer. That could be your banker or your accountant or your lawyer.
How do you build such a strong bond with somebody that to go out to bat for you? Like, do you have is it quite personal? Was he
It's always personal.
So they always come in for dinners and you go for beers.
Bank manager.
I think with the bankers too, I think it's just being incredibly honest with them, saying this is where we're sitting, this is what we see in the future, this is how we're going to achieve it. I think good conversations with your banker also help. And I think your mom and dad, just by their nature, were those type of people. Mm-hmm. And so that's how they fostered trust. I think it's a big thing is trust with your banker. Right. And with anybody in business. But at that point, for that relationship, it was just trust. And this is where we are. And then they'll work for you.
Yeah, it would have been like at the very end of the 70s, they had built a new house. And, that bank manager they had for a long time, and they actually followed the bank manager from one branch to another branch. And that's how strong that bond was.
Mm-hmm. Very loyal.
Very loyal. And the bank manager and their family, they were amazing people as well. And they were musicians and they played at parties at mom and dad's place and maybe even might have fallen off a deck. Perhaps and maybe got stuck on one of their driveways and hit a tree. Just
for
maybe.
Some strange reason after the party.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
But that's when you really start to see the strength in a personal relationship, even though you can't get a business that runs more by the numbers than a bank. Like the numbers always have to work for a bank to maintain a relationship.
Right.
But yet it still is so much of the personal side as well.
Okay. So that was when you were 10, but now you guys, you're not going to be a pilot anymore. You're back from France, married, and then you have interest in the gravel business.
Yeah, I can remember the day. For me, like when I started working full time, I was just working. There's out in the field. There's these levels of, you got the ground, the ground guy,
the hierarchy. You're the bitch, and then you become the master of the bitches, but you're still kind of the bitch, and then you start getting some authority.
First, you drive just the shovel. Then maybe you get to drive the loader. And then at a certain point, no, we didn't have bobcats back then.
No, okay.
And then at a certain point, you might be able to actually make a decision or two. Yeah. And so I worked through all of those. So that's why my strengths in the company has always been more the operational side of things.
Right.
And
I think that's so important too, because nothing I despise more than someone that's never been in the ground and tries to tell you what to do. It's just like, these are the numbers. Like, yeah, your numbers are stupid. Like, this is 100 years of experience. We have 4 guys with 20 years experience. This is how it's done. Your textbook does not explain that, and you get so much more respect when you know this guy knows a shovel, knows a loader, knows this from the crew and the men, because you've been battle tested. So.
But do you not think too, it's like a lot of that is, maybe it's okay to be that educated person that comes in, but it's communication. It's like maybe he has a new idea that he wants to implement, and then
there's nothing wrong with that. But we are talking about someone in an ivory tower and someone on the ground is a very different communication than someone from that ivory tower comes and understands it. I've worked with some consultants that were highly educated, that are consultants because they're so intelligently wise to certain industries, and they can just make such incredible decisions.
But they're listening to you as well.
No, we listen to them because they're such an absolute. You trust their word so well, and when they make a decision, it's just like, you do this, you do this, you do this, you do this, and then we act upon it and execute it, and it is flawless. Yeah, it is incredible. Yeah. So you get a lot of respect when you have that wisdom of your industry. So that's quite an advantage. So you were moving up the ranks. You're wiser.
I remember the one day when I was in the office and I was dropping off paperwork and grabbing new stuff or whatever, and mom and dad had somebody in their office, and they called me in. I kind of stick my head around the corner, and they're like, where do you see yourself in 5 years or 10 years kind of thing? They kind of asked me this question. And I'm like, I don't know, I'll probably be here running the place, but I got to go. But the moment I said that, they all kind of looked at each other and was like, oh, we're going to have to change a few things then. And then I took off and never really given a whole lot of thought for, another year or two or whatever. But then it was like, yeah, no, this is where I want to stay, because it's a fun business. Like, we get to, we've got great big toys for sure. Like the biggest, we've got the biggest sand pit in the world to go play with these big toys kind of thing. But it's the whole thing. And that kind of ties into, I guess, as to what our business was and where the strengths and what the strengths that we brought as a family to the business as well, and what really led to a lot of our success is mom and dad took the company through that initial phase, and then we took it through a different phase, and they had some strengths that we didn't have, and we had some strengths that they didn't have, and the timing was perfect because they were the greatest people to start it, and we did a pretty good job of helping take it to the next level. And but it was all based on that foundation that they had
solid
there
foundation
in the first place. But we get to go out and talk to farmers and go find gravel, and that's it's kind of like being a farmer. You're walking around and you're kicking the dirt and digging in the ground and finding things and thinking about, well, there's more jobs coming in the area, so this is a good place to have a new pit, and let's go look for it. And so some of it is some of it's scientific, and looking at maps and talking with consultants, and some of it's as simple as, well, there's gravel on this side of the fence, so there's probably gravel on this side of the fence. And sometimes it's this total gut feeling. It's like, oh man, there's got to be something here. It was like, damn it, there was. We were right this time again, and so that's a really fun part, and it was really neat that we were able to. There's like more than a handful of instances where we've gone and chatted with farmers who weren't having a good time being farmers anymore. Like, they were having all sorts of struggles, and from the way you were able to find gravel on their land and then take the gravel out and pay them for like a royalty rate then for taking that gravel out. It was a new way for them to generate revenue with their land, and we've seen places where that could have been the end of that farm sort of thing, and that family that used to live out there for Alberta. Everybody at this point now is kind of like about the 5th generation or so.
Right.
And so we could see all of a sudden where some of these family farms could stay in the family, where they didn't have to go to town to work or whatever.
So it's that three-dimensional, find the most you can get out of your piece of land. Cattle, grain, and now gravel.
And gravel becomes an option and not everybody has it, and some people do, and it was just a way for them to generate some more wealth and maintain their farm or improve their legacy or whatever. And so that was kind of one of the cool things. And for me, that's what I grew up on a farm with, working with my mom and dad and my grandpa and grandma and cousins and stuff like that. And so when we would go out and be looking for gravel kind of thing, like, I understood what it meant if they needed help treating cattle that day, or or something broke on a tractor or whatever. It was like,
you could really get in touch with them, right? Because you knew exactly what was going on.
I was kind of the same kind of person they are.
Yeah.
Like, we're all different and unique, but I grew up exactly the same place where they live, kind of thing. So that was always a really cool part of it. We've got these customers of ours then, and a customer for us was anything from a county to Alberta Transportation to people building the next Tim Hortons or 7-Eleven or Walmarts or hotels or whatever, like this wide variety of customers. And it's kind of cool to be able to go out and drive around town and say, that's our gravel in that parking lot, and that's our gravel that went into that ready mix and built that building and stuff. And it's something that we know is going to last for the next 20, 50, 100 years or whatever.
Right?
Yeah.
Dig it up there.
You know, and so that's that other far end kind of thing as to what's cool. We enjoyed it as to what it did. It gave the flexibility it gave us with our family because we were self-employed. So if we wanted to not go to work tomorrow, we could not go to work tomorrow and spend time with the family, as long as we figured out how to make sure the work still got done tomorrow.
Right.
Like, you know, and so that was great for us in that sort of sense, that flexibility. And then you know, that just some people complain about employees, and we've complained about employees at times, but that's one of the things that we miss at this point as well, is you had so many great friendships that as
So
people
many
you work with.
It's kind of like
The Legion, you know, it's kind of like, you know, you got the Mixcor here, and then you got all your friends and like people that you need to put in certain positions to help this organism Mixcor kind of grow. And it's kind of nice because it's kind of like this mutual, everyone benefits, you know, in their own way. So
And honestly, Mixcor couldn't have grown the way it grew without the people that we had.
right, but you also got to pick the people.
We definitely picked the people, and we picked people that were different from us, that people that complemented us, that they had skills we didn't have, and that again helped with our success. And they looked at things differently. Like we all brought different ideas to the table. So.
When did you start getting involved in the company? Like, cause you were an architect there for a bit.
I was an architectural technologist. Yeah, I didn't start until Matthew was a year old, and then I worked part-time.
And why did you choose to do the switch? Just because it made more sense?
Yeah, I think at the beginning I switched because I didn't want to work full-time. I didn't want to go all the way downtown. I loved what I did, but it was a bit all-consuming. And for me at that point in my life, the kids and the family and supporting Terry and what he did was more important. So then I just worked part-time in the business, and again, it gave me the flexibility to drop Matthew off at later on in the day and pick him up earlier, and kind of have run the house as well. And as the kids got older, it was more important because they were involved in things. And I think Terry and I, even before we were married, we talked about how we wanted to see the dynamics in our family.
Mm-hmm. How did you want to see it?
I wanted to be there for the kids and to be kind of in that supportive role. And not originally. I didn't really want to have kids, but
young girl says that.
yeah.
Until 27 hits, and it's like, oh, maybe.
No, and it wasn't even that. It was, to me, I thought about it, and by the time I hit 40, 45, I didn't want it just to be Terry and I wanted it to be bigger, and I wanted to
40?
be, like, I was thinking as I was like 23 and it's like, I was thinking looking out further in my life, and I'm thinking, well, when I'm 40 and it's just going to be Terry and I,
I'm going to start getting boring after a while.
yeah, no, I didn't. I just thought I wanted it to be fuller and bigger, and kids do that.
Yeah.
And honestly, best decision we ever made. I'm not saying it's right for everybody, but it was the best decision we've ever made, and it's enhanced our lives through activities that they've done, and we've met people, and yeah, it's been amazing. But I wanted to still be in that supportive role when they were younger, and working in the company allowed me to do that.
So do you, like, because now, do you think you could have had the same dynamic if you went on another, let's say you decided to go full-time architect and you did gravel, do you think you guys could have had the same dynamic as a family? Because obviously it would be, you guys wouldn't be invested in the same mission, right? Because you share the wins and the losses, right? You're part of the company. So when the company's doing well, it's just like, yeah, I'm part of this. It's nice to be part of something bigger than myself. But if you're in a separate industry and you're trying to follow your career in this way, and Uncle Terry was rolling this way, you think you guys would have been as, I guess, bonded, connected, or invested in each other? Because clearly, career is quite important in Canada. And if you guys aren't searching for the same things, clearly with Mixcor you were.
Yeah.
Success. How do we win? How do we make this company better? Right? I think that dynamic creates a very strong nuclear family.
I think for us and for owning a company and being an entrepreneur, I think it worked well for us. I think he, again, it's only speculation, but yeah, I think Terry would have listened to me and my woes and my highs in my career, and I would listen to what he needed at that point, and we would have just tried to do the best being in separate careers with each other. I think it still would have worked because I think we listen to each other and we try and help no matter what.
I think yeah, as humans, I think we're super flexible as to how we adapt to the environment that we live in. So I think that
You have to have that want to.
like yeah, you need to have a want and desire to get to a certain goal or to do something. But if we had been in separate careers and we never talked about what we did at work or the struggles that we had with each other kind of thing, and we just kept, solved all of our problems some other way kind of thing, I think we probably would have done pretty good too. I'm thinking.
Yeah.
But I grew up with watching my mom and dad work together.
Right, that's what I mean. It's that working together to me is just like when I'm on the rigs, you have 5 guys trying to solve a problem. We're not even getting along, but it's for some strange reason when we put 5 idiots on a rig, we can do incredible things. It's just when 2 people are working together, I feel. Well, I know. It seems to build
Stronger bonds,
But
because you have to share the weight.
I think it was empowering them.
But we've had people that we work with, like employees and stuff, that would be super vested, even though they weren't family, where they were super vested into solving the problems and getting solutions.
Yeah.
And were severely disappointed if they didn't
Yeah, like
reach
I
success
think
as well.
I understand where you're coming from, and I do think it's made our relationship stronger. It could have broke our relationship as well, but it made our relationship stronger. But I think of our management team, and when we went through the highs and lows and how incredibly invested they were.
Mhm.
And they weren't my spouse.
Yeah.
But they lived, breathed, and ate Mixcor. So
How did you inspire them to do that?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a good question.
Treat them like a human being.
Yeah.
Like give them responsibility and give them leeway and direction as well.
Yeah, but I think it was empowering them to be part of the team, not micromanaging them, valuing what they said, and letting them know if you didn't like where we were going with something, tell us why. Explain it to us. Let's have a good conversation. Let's hash it out. But at the end of the day, let's agree on what's decided. And I think just letting them know that we respected them in that way, and we knew that they respected us. And so that just made our management team so incredibly strong. And the dynamics, the different people that we had, and the different way they thought.
Is there a brain that really stands out, like a certain individual who had people have this mind that can just see problems so well and sort them out? Was there a certain brain that you're just like, man, that guy's a fucking genius. I'm really glad he works for us.
I don't even think like everybody's brain on our management team.
Well, there's a bunch of them.
They were like, but it was different. Like they all thought different. Like if we take our sales manager.
Yeah, Harry could get people to tell all sorts of information that I would never ask. Questions I would never ask. The guy thought it would be, well, I can't ask a competitor this or that or a trade secret or whatever kind of thing. And he's like, well, just ask him. People want to talk. Kind of thing. They want to tell their story.
And Harry loved listening to the stories.
But
like
he would listen as
and
well.
He would
Like,
listen.
He really listened to what people were saying. And he built a real good level of trust. And he was like, for in the industry, he was.
But he also fought for our
guy.
customers too. Like he's like, if something wasn't right, he would be like, this isn't right. we need to fix it. And he held us accountable to fix things as well.
Yeah.
So
How do you create that? Because one thing I noticed with the I call them the king, the queen, the emperors, the high level people. The other people seem to not relay information well because you shoot the messenger, or they it's kind of nice when people suck up, I guess, or not relay the softer side of information. How do you get those hard truths from your people? Like when you say, hey, listen, you guys are doing something dumb. This is dumb. I know you're not going to like this because you have an ego. Your ego's going to be like, well, that's not dumb. And you're going to get defensive. But this is why it's dumb. Da, 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 da. How do you make those information lanes? Because I find a lot of people, when they're around their, the top dog, they kind of just sugarcoat everything and information doesn't get relayed quite well. And there's few people that will take that thing where they know I might not have a job anymore. Listen, you're doing something very stupid. This is why it's stupid. I don't know why no one's told you why it's stupid. And I guess I'm going to be the messenger and probably going to get shot. Because that's usually how it goes. Because that is one of the...
I would definitely say that, we can sit here and say everything that we want to say. There was times where they didn't want to tell us, like, hey, this isn't working.
Like, how do you make that lane? And how do you not react in a defensive?
You need to keep asking those questions. And then when they tell you that information...
And who was asking? Was it you or you? Because there's definitely a feminine dynamic and there's a masculine dynamic.
No, I think we were both constantly asking those questions.
Yeah, no, and it's not like you have to build up that level of trust.
Mm-hmm.
Like they have to trust that we're not going to go and step on their throat when they say
so
something.
then when
bad.
they do it...
Or a subconscious stepping on the throat. Because oh yeah, I understand. And then it's just like, he's my enemy now.
Yeah.
And there's this passive aggressive subconsciousness. Which is
And it can, honestly, I could see it. It can take, with some people, it can take years before they actually believe you when you say, no, tell me the truth. They're like, no, I can't tell them the truth.
Yeah.
It might take 2 or 3 years actually before they can get to the point where it's like, okay, I want to tell you the truth. So like, oh, this is the first time in 5 years you're telling me the truth. Like, and
Yeah.
Right.
You have to be really careful. Like same thing with when you're being sarcastic with people.
Yeah. Right.
It's real when I'm saying something and I'm being a little sarcastic or whatever.
Yeah,
It's funny. It's really funny, and I feel real smart saying it. Right? But for the
And there's
person on the
definitely
receiving
times
end,
where I've been like, oh my God.
And I'm sometimes I watch myself. I'm like, oh, that wasn't very sensitive. That wasn't very nice there. Oh, Jesus. But then it's just you're just talking like you talk, right?
Yeah, but if you're being like, you really got to be careful, because when you're the boss, you're in a position of power, and you can make people feel terrible or scared, or like you have to.
There's a whole social.
If you are interested in being a good guy and listening to what people say and getting the honest opinions that people have to offer, it doesn't happen by accident. Like you have to be conscious as to what you're doing.
Like you said, you can foster it for a long time before that relationship actually happens. So I think you have to be consistent. I think you have to be caring. I think tough too.
Yeah.
Like it's not like they walk all over.
Obviously, leadership is absolutely. You have to be absolute authority, because if it slips, it looks weak, right? And if you look weak, then it creates all sorts of problems.
But saying, you know what, I was wrong isn't being weak either.
No, it's quite strong.
I always thought, like, it's funny, when we took over the company from Terry's mom and dad, I thought people would work for us. And I feel that was not how it was at all.
It took about 10 years before they were working for us and not working just for mom and dad yet.
Yeah, that's true too. But no, I feel like we worked for them.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
100%.
we helped
Creating an environment
how
for
can
them
we
to
make
thrive.
how can we make you be the best you can be in your job so that the company benefits?
Right.
So I felt like we were always trying to work for our employees, our customers, our landowners. Like that's kind of in leadership. It's you're not working for yourselves. You're working for others. Like I think that was apparent really quickly for me anyway, to foster all those relationships so that the company grew.
So good leadership is only truly tested when times are bad. It's only truly tested when times are bad. Times are good, everything's happy, take bonuses. But I'm sure there was the darkest hour. Dun, dun, dun. Was there one for Mixcor? I don't know. You tell me. I've
No.
never heard this story.
And
No.
I didn't, no, it was all
It was always
All
roses.
roses.
Oh,
All
roses.
It was just
roses.
that uphill, just going all the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just-
Yes,
No.
to the moon, baby.
2017.
If you had to pick a date.
I had to pick a date, July 2017.
So when did you guys take over the company? 2002?
2002.
So that's when you guys made
May
the
2002.
the choice to take it.
You know, honestly,
had been
that
coming
I
already.
think you need to back up there because your mom more so than your dad was very cognizant of a generational transition.
Yeah, no, like when
She
I
wanted that.
Terry had
no.
expressed that interest, so
Yeah.
she actually thought, how can I start fostering this? And then you
We worked-
too,
we
you
worked
were
together
really
and,
smart that
and
way.
we joined, at that time it was called CAFE, Canadian Association of Family Enterprise. They had a bunch of educational programs. They would do these annual symposiums or conventions where families would get together and listen to speakers and what was their story and
How
what
did they make those
what are
transitions?
consultants doing today to help generations do these transitions and stuff. And so we went as a like mom and dad and us. We would go to these things together and do these workshops and stuff and just gaining this information and giving us all these different tools that we needed to do the transition. Because we've talked with other people and they're like, and you can just go Google percentage of second generation companies that fail. I don't know what the number is, but Google probably says it's something like 3/4 or 90% or whatever. Companies don't make the transition from Gen 1 to Gen 2.
Yeah, I know what the funny stat is. I think 90% of self-made millionaires are self-made. Only like 10 or 15% is generational wealth. So the next generation or the third generation usually squander it. So Matthew and Rudy, watch out. Yeah, watch out.
That's a dun dun dun.
Darkest hours yet to
Yeah,
come.
legacy is coming through. Addict.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were very intentional as to how we were approaching doing that transition from Gen 1 to Gen 2. And there was
there fears? Like, was there fears in the family? Like, if you take over this business, was there going to be other brothers and sisters being jealous? Was there, like, what was your parents' fear of you taking over? Like, are you going to run my business into the ground? Was there fears on that end of things?
There would have been that. There would have been the fears as to, are we going to make it work? Are we just going to fuck it all up?
Right.
Like, are we smart enough to actually make this thing successful?
Will we work hard enough? Will we invest ourselves in it?
Yeah, I talked about the relationships that we have with our landowners. What fears are they feeling? Because they originally making deals with Lauren and Tina. Now all of a sudden it's who in the hell's Terry and Don?
And they know
You
Lauren
know.
and Tina, and they
He's
know
scary. He's that little.
he's that little.
Yeah, that little
That
shit.
little
that-
Yeah.
Like and customers and all of that, right? Like so, there's all sorts of fears, long-term employees, all of that. There's all sorts. Like everybody is. It's a time where everything's under the microscope, kind of thing, and being looked at. And there was the one day when all of a sudden the sign on the building changed,
To Mixcor.
But we were intentional in even how we did that. Like it was like, yep, paperwork was signed, and the name changed, and nothing else changed.
Gotcha.
Mom and dad kept coming to the office every day. They kept working. We kept doing the same things that we were doing. Both names were still left on the building.
Gotcha.
Slowly names on vehicles started to change and things like that. And then over time, roles inside the company started to change. I went from more just being an operational guy to more of an operational and management guy. Don's roles started changing, responsibilities started transferring.
This is when you went from part-time to full-time?
So no.
You still did part-time.
I guess so. I started transitioning too as the kids started getting a little bit older from part-time and just being more and more in the office. I wasn't quite full-time, but yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Tina was still there, so I still had an anchor there.
Yeah.
And then I just started working with her and understanding more on more of the financial end. I kind of I came out of the accounting of the payroll and receivables and payables more into the financial end of the business. So yeah, transitioning for me as well. But again, Tina was still there. I always had her, like, how are you dealing with the bonding people? How do you deal with the bankers? How do you deal with insurance renewals, WCB, like all those things? Like I feel like I was very fortunate because I still had that anchor there to help me through those tough questions.
Nice.
Yeah. And then Dad was quite excited by the opportunity to
take a step back.
Well, take a step back. No, just keep running in a different direction, because he never took step backs sort of ever in his life.
Is your dad like just a hyper, like his brain just, it's like, okay, let's go do this.
He's not hyper in the sense where he's,
but he needs tasks,
fidgety and wound.
Yeah.
But he always is interested as to, oh, this is a great idea, and this is a great idea.
Right.
We can make this better, and let's try this. And
he's an idea guy.
Yeah.
And then he would, that's why your mom and dad work so well together. He was the idea guy, and he figured out how to make money. And then Tina kind of figured out how to make everything feasible.
So like my mom and my dad, because my dad's an idea guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Big idea. And mom's just like, those ideas are dumb. These two are the best. So go this way.
Yeah. And then, but she probably looks at the feasibility of it. And that was kind of Tina too. And so that's why they were such a successful couple. Right?
Yeah.
Lauren's happy, going a new direction. And what direction are we going?
Oh, no,
He's going left, right, up, down.
So when they started the company, and I'm sure they had lots of different thoughts when they first started.
I think
but
it wasn't their first thoughts that they were going to do this for like a couple years and then go back farming.
And then just go back.
Wasn't a long-term game.
Yeah. So when we bought the company then.
Yeah.
And Dad's like, I'm going out and buying some new farm equipment. So all of a sudden there's new grain trucks and combine and tractors and haying equipment.
It's always
and
been
all
a lot
that
for him.
And just doing that. And at the start, coming to the office every day yet or whatever, and then coming to the office twice a week and maybe once a week, and then we kind of would take his office and put a new employee into his office and move him to another office further in the
kind of moved around a lot.
He got shuffled around and
but he always had an office to come back to.
Yeah, he always had a place to come and pick up the mail.
Yeah.
And so it was, I guess there was a one day when we signed papers and the signs changed, but nothing changed. But then things slowly started to change.
How many years did that take? Like the transition was 2-3 years?
Because we were all really comfortable working with each other as well, in the sense
because we had already worked with each other for quite a while.
Yeah, there was that level of trust that we didn't have. I wasn't there to prove myself. I would, hopefully what I did was proving myself. But I wasn't trying to go and put a new stamp on the company and changing things a whole bunch. And they weren't worried about letting go. The biggest changes that we made then is all of a sudden it's like, oh, we hired a sales manager. Oh, then we hired a general manager for the company, and started hiring these new roles that never existed before.
Because the company was getting bigger, or because you wanted to get bigger?
The company was getting bigger.
And it was intentional to start making the company bigger.
Yeah, so like I remember like in the first week after we hired that sales manager position, I'm like, okay, why don't these guys ever buy gravel from us? And it's like, well, they've got a 3-year deal with one of our competitors or something. And why don't these guys ever get prices? Well, they're always good. These guys take 1 million prices a day kind of thing, but it was all this stuff that we just didn't know because, well, we weren't
in that loop.
Yeah, we weren't in the sales loop so much. We had the production side kind of figured out, and people would come and buy our gravel, and we could bid the big Alberta highway jobs and things like that, but we didn't know how to make retail sales,
right,
sort of thing. And so then that's what hiring Harry as our sales manager, that's what allowed him then to, like, he just jumped in, and it was a fun ride.
Was he quite like dominant in his thinking? It's like, hey, like, we got to go here. And you're just like, yeah, we do.
It's a great idea.
Honestly, Harry told me so many times, be a willow, don't be an oak. Don't be so set in your thinking that you can't pivot.
Right.
So Harry was always about pivoting. Let's see where we can get the biggest bang, make the most money, and go there. Like he was not so struck or set in his ideas that he couldn't think outside the box.
Right.
That was Harry's superpower.
Yeah, and we had beautiful timing because, like, you know, in 2002 we buy.
Oh yeah.
Get a while to start to get settled into what
Alberta's
we're doing.
booming.
Yeah.
Alberta's booming. 2007, 2008, basically, like in one season, was basically able to pay off all of our debt to mom and dad. You know, like things were so good then for a while. And with that environment, there was craziness as well. And like you're running out of gravel and you don't have enough production and the demand is way outstripping production in all the companies in the area, kind of thing. And
It's a nice feeling.
we had
It was fun.
and
fun.
it was a ton of fun. My mom was completely uncomfortable with it because that's not she just saw the craziness and the way the prices were changing and stuff, and she wasn't comfortable with that. And for us, it was like, this is awesome. It means we can pay you guys off this winter, kind of thing. And
it was a fun ride. It
Oh,
was
was
a
this
fun
like-
ride.
at one of our Christmas parties, Harry he had saved the voicemail somebody had left, and because we were, like Don talked about pivoting, we were continually looking. We'd run out of gravel here, we get gravel from here, and we'd buy gravel from somebody else to keep our customers happy. And he's like, okay, well, the job started a week ago or whatever it was, and it was like, and we started off with orange gravel, then we got some yellow gravel. Yesterday we got gray gravel. What color of gravel is coming tomorrow? Because every gravel pit has kind of a different color to it.
Right.
And this customer was like, he was kind of poking us a little bit, like he was kind of teasing us a bit, but he was also saying thanks
Right.
Yeah.
because he knew
Because
that
we
we
knew
were
the supply was going to be there.
he knew that we were doing everything we could to make sure his job didn't stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. Kind of in those same kinds of times, it wasn't that year, it was a different year when things were super busy and we're going along, and we are so like under capacity wise, like we're looking, the sales that we have to make every day are like twice as to what our production capabilities are. We're almost out of gravel in the pits. We just got these little tiny piles of gravel left over. And Harry's like, you know, we've got this opportunity. There's this job here, like for 10,000 tons or whatever, like a medium-sized job. It's gonna be really good dollars, but it's like, where are we gonna get the gravel from? And I'm like thinking in my head, I don't have a fucking clue how this is gonna work out. But I'm like, bid it. And he's like, we're gonna get it. And I'm like, get it. And he's like, fuck, I love working here.
Yeah.
because we were really, and that was just the spirit of everybody there. It's like, we're gonna do whatever it takes to get it and have fun doing it, and make money at it. And it didn't matter if it was, we'll do whatever it takes on the sales side, because we were the only company, and I'm sure other companies did it to a degree, but for the size we were, our salespeople, they did the most follow-up work, chasing down what jobs actually closed for, who's got the job, how full are our competitors. Like, we put a ton of effort going into making sure we understood the industry and where it stood today and where it was going to be
And
in
what
2
we could
months
bid.
and what we could bid at to maximize. We never wanted to get a job, say gravel selling for $20 a ton. We never wanted to get a job by $1 or even a quarter. It was by the nickels. We wanted to always be because you have to be the lowest to get the price, you get the job. We didn't want to be the lowest by a bunch. We wanted to get it. We just wanted to sneak in there all the time. Our guys on the operation side of things, like, we didn't always have the newest and the greatest, and sometimes we did, but it was like, no, we know we can make anything with this equipment that we have. We would bid jobs that people are like, oh, I don't know if we can make this. It's a really tough spec. And it's like, well, no, if we do this and this and this, we can, oh yeah, like we can, other people wouldn't be able to figure it out, and they wouldn't bid it, or they would fail at it or whatever. And then the way that we just did the training for the people and stuff like that, like all the different levels of the company had this, let's get her done, let's be the best at what we can do kind of thing.
Was this the highlight of your guys' career? These like 07, 08 and that other time? Like that was those, like when you think of like, man, those are some damn good years.
And those
Financially, they were our highlights for
Yeah.
sure.
So, but just because everyone was on the same wavelength, you clearly you built a culture that was designed where everyone was just firing on the same cylinder.
But then that's when it's easy.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, you want to, if you could make money in 2010, that was a different story,
Mhm.
right? You've got this crash that happens with housing and subprime mortgage
Yeah,
and all that kind of stuff.
08, so it took 2
08.
years for it to.
Yeah,
Oh.
we're a lagging industry, so then the following years after the crash, the following year it was still
We were still busy.
we're still busy and
So
it was
you
still
guys
good
can
for
still
us.
figure out. You guys can start making adjustments because you
Yeah,
can see the
because
future.
we know it's coming,
Yeah.
right?
And
But how
09
much
was a
to
great year
adjust?
for us again.
Yeah.
But 2010, 2011, and it's, some people in construction were like, oh, by the time 2011 happened, things were going again. Or it's like, well, not for us.
No.
You know,
Yeah.
because we were always kind of lagging. And
It's kind of a nice thing to have where you can see the future by 2 years,
a
right?
little bit.
It's a big advantage because you're like, okay, we got to start paying shit off. Like we gotta structure debt differently. We got the storm's coming.
But you can only do that if you've got a team of people that have that mentality, that are willing to look as to what the future's coming. Because there's lots of people that'll be like, there'll be a storm coming and they're still putting up sails on their ship, kind of thing. And they're like, no, we're different. Let's just keep getting. Like, you know, it's tough to change, especially change to a conservative approach.
Yeah.
Change to a downscale approach when it feels like things are still going
Right.
good. Oh, maybe it'll be different this time. Like, oh my God, how many people in the oil field that said, oh, it's going to be different this time? Or I promise not to blow it all again,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah. There's a reason there's a bumper sticker that says that, right?
yeah. And so that's why it's always fun. Like even like in the good and the bad, like, yeah, the good is really fun, but even in the hard times,
The hard times aren't great when you're going through them, but what you take away from them.
Yeah, 'cause that's
is
when
amazing.
You get,
Yeah.
that's when you get character.
That's your biggest growth period
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
in the hard time. Yeah. Yeah, and it sucks being there. It does. It so sucks and it drains you mentally, physically.
Let's get into it.
but-
So 2017, the darkest hour,
yeah.
because I saw my parents go through that. Very unpleasant.
Yeah, it was unpleasant. It was unpleasant to go through it. It's unpleasant to sit down every month and do your financials, and you're in the middle of your second quarter or third quarter, or towards the end of your second quarter, and you realize no matter what you do, you can't turn the ship around because you've lost so much money.
You know, how do you, because I think when I talked to my dad, he said like the worst thing about it was he was trying so hard, and in his mental capacity, he couldn't figure out how to solve this problem and find a way to win. And that was the worst part for him. He says, I am busting my ass. I'm working 17-hour days. I am turning into a lunatic to try to win. And in my mental capacity, I cannot find a way to win in this direction. And that what really pissed him off. So how does that feel? Just see, like, you take over, you're going up, you're going down, but you're mostly going up, and then you start having your first taste of defeat. Like, how do you do
well,
it?
in 17, like,
We definitely
lost more money than I ever thought I would make in my life, kind of thing, in 1 year. You know, so like that can be deflating for sure. But it made sense in this is what's happened to the market. This was our cost of production, and these are the problems that we had. And all, like, you can kind of add it all up and make sense. We also had the issue like when the I forget what year that was, when the bank all of a sudden that would have been like I said,
That was
2007, 2008 were great years, kind of thing. Well, just right before that, right? That's when
that was really tough. I was just kind of coming into the business at that point.
yeah.
And
All of a sudden, the bank
ATB,
is we're not afraid to say it. The ATB.
came into our office, and I wasn't kind of privy to that conversation at the time, so you should speak to
Well,
that.
basically, it was like, yeah, you got 30 days. Go find a new
Lending institution.
Go find a new bank. Go find a new facility. And it's like,
You don't fit in our business profile anymore.
no, they didn't say that though. They're just like, you don't work for us anymore. Go find a new bank. And we're like, well, what's wrong? and that they're like, they didn't really have an answer for us. And they're like, you know, you need to go out, you can go hire a consultant. We had to hire Deloitte or something for $20,000. They did a feasibility study on our company. So we got this great soft bound 100-page little binder thing that they gave us back. And we read through it, and it's like, well, this doesn't really say anything.
But we spent
And
$20,000.
$20,000
And
on
that
it.
was just so much money.
And they're like, well, and they're common, and it's, we can laugh about it now, but it's like, well, can't you tell from the lack of negativity in the document that you guys are good? Like, as a company, you guys are sustainable. You're good.
We use that a lot.
And it's like, so I have to read into the fact that there's a lack of negativity in the document, that it's a good document then, that it's positive. And they're like,
Can you just say?
they're like, yeah. It's like, can you write that down for us, please?
Yeah, like, could you be a little more specific?
So they added basically one line, and it was almost like they cut and pasted it to the very end of the document and said, this company is sustainable for the long term.
And then the bank.
And then the bank looks at that. Sorry, I'm giving them more credit than they deserve. The bank took that document and just dropped it in the trash, wasted $20,000 of ours.
Our time and our energy, because
Yeah.
it's not only their end, that Deloitte's
Yeah.
energy,
Oh my God,
but it
you
was
guys have to go through.
yeah, you've got to go through documents to supply these people,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And
And-
it's just it was ridiculous. Is
And
what it was.
then finally they're like, yeah, no, you have to go get a new facility. You have to go find a new bank, a new banker. And
So they say yeah, they say no, they say yeah, they say no.
no, they're
No.
always basically saying no the whole time.
Mhm.
But they're like, but if you do this $20,000 study, you know, then we'll consider it, kind of thing. Okay, well, we'll do the $20,000 study then, because it's not cheap to go and find a new bank as well, kind of thing. So we'll do this. We'll stay with the company that we've been with for. It was only our second bank ever in the company's career. Like, it started off at the Toronto Dominion, then the Alberta Treasury branch, and so we're like, we kind of felt like we should stay there, like kind of be loyal to them, that they be loyal to us.
a
sort of thing.
relationship, and that was one relationship that the banker did not go to bat for us.
Yeah,
he was
a
not
really
he was
weak banker
a weak
person.
banker, a weak person, and you know, honestly, if he could have been, you know, upfront with us and saying the banks are just going in a different direction, you don't fit their profile anymore, it would have been so much
Yeah, you would've
easier.
saved 20 grand.
We'd
Yeah.
saved 20 grand, all the time and energy, and we could have went to a bank that we fit their profile.
Right.
Because if at the very end it's like, so this document, what does it mean? And they're like, well, it doesn't really matter. They're like, it doesn't matter what that document says. We don't want your type of company.
And
Okay,
And
we'll
when-
just say that then.
yeah,
But just say that.
but it's not only that. When they told us that, it's like, okay, we have 30 days to find a bank that will roll with us.
So we're kind of like scratching our heads and stuff.
And
like, what the
scrambling,
hell's
and
gonna
it's
go?
like, you've got employees to pay, you've got loans outstanding.
Yeah.
Like, it's just
and
that was panic.
And one of the small local efforts that we always helped out a little bit with was the World Food Grains Bank. In the area, all the local farmers will show up onto a quarter
All their
section
combines.
of land, and they combine the field in about half an hour because there's 20 or 30 combines and stuff. And so we've always donated just a small amount, like $500 or something like that, for fuel for the combine, sort of thing. And so the guy that always was Russ, who would always be the guy that would come around to ask us for our annual donation again, kind of thing. And he actually is an account manager at RBC. And we're like, actually, you know what, Russ, can we have a little bit of a different conversation? It's like, well, what's up? And it's like, well, ATV's dropping us. And he just smiles. And he's like, it's done, taken care of. And it's like, what do you mean? He's like, no, like, we'll take you guys. And it's like, well, here's our documents. Here's all of our year-end financials for the last 5 years. And he's like, I don't need that. He's like, I know who you are. He's like, I sit on 2 boards with your mom. Like, I've been in the community my whole life. Like, come with us. What do you need? What do you need for rates? How much money do you need? I'll cut you a check by the end of the week, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And they did.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and so RBC was
That's
amazing.
bad. That's a great story.
He was the next, because then Russ retired, and then the next 2 managers there were phenomenal, and they worked with us, and the relationship that we had with them, and good conversations, like we're making a shit ton of money, and bad conversations. We're losing a shit ton of money.
Like said 2017.
2017, and we're sitting down with the bank manager, and
Like when you lost more money than you thought you'd ever.
Is there a number? Can I get a number?
You'd stop working.
More than $20?
more than $20.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Was it 7 figures or 8 figures?
It was a lot of zeros.
A lot of zeros.
So many zeros. So
and they're showing up for the annual review.
Yeah,
right? And
so
you're kind of nervous.
Yeah, and because you've had that history where banks drop you. And so then you have these conversations, you give them projections, you give them budgets for the following year,
And show them what you're doing different.
and how you're going to improve. And they rolled with us.
Yeah.
So was it just 1 year where like,
No.
how many years was it bad?
Oh my God.
And what made it? Was it because the industry changed and it was just like the big Americans came in and became juggernauts where they could take losses because there's other companies that would feed it? Or was it like, was less?
A combination of things, I think.
It's
It's always a combination of things. And some of it is, I think the other companies just didn't totally understand the market and didn't understand what they could bid. But also maybe a bit of that was undercutting and taking, they could afford to take a loss in this sector of their company because they were integrated, right? They had so many different sectors. So if we take a loss in the aggregate, it's okay, we'll make it up in cement or we'll make it up in paving or whatever. Right. And prices dropped.
Yeah, and sometimes you could see their sales force would go through changes.
Mm-hmm.
They bring in new people or whatever kind of thing, and then all of a sudden, oh shit, they're out of touch. They don't have a clue what's going on, sort of thing.
They suffer.
And then you suffer, and it's like anytime a price drops, it takes a long time for it to creep back up again.
Yeah.
And so you deal with things like that, and then you can have.
And we grew as a company, so our overhead was more. So we had to get more from our gravel prices.
Mm-hmm.
And
Was it like a bad storm? Like you decided to grow when the market was declining?
yeah, we wanted to expand. We wanted to expand into Calgary. So we wanted to be not just central Alberta. We wanted to be all of Alberta. So we'd put energy and time into getting more pits down there and more of an infrastructure down there. And
Pits and people.
And and then prices started tanking, but production rates were going up. Fuel prices were going up. Repair parts were going up. Everything was going up, but prices are going down. So
2023.
Yeah. So it was just.
And it's easy to get caught in the, well, no, we're doing all of this here. Let's do something else over here a little bit or whatever kind of thing.
So you're spreading your forces?
Well, a little bit. It's and there's a saying I've heard from somebody, and it's called "stick to your knitting." You know, if you know how to knit,
Become really good at it.
Just master that and stick to it. And when things are really good, then you can think about starting to expand, doing some other things or in different areas or whatnot, kind of. But when markets contract, prices drop, your environment gets really bad for whatever reasons, kind of thing. You really need to be quick at dropping everything else and just getting back to your knitting again.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you guys didn't make, so you guys went almost the opposite then? Or did you guys say, we're going to go back to knitting?
We ended up going back to knitting, but we really tried to keep that expansion going and tried to grow. And it's like, it's not going to work. And so, we had tough decisions then. We had to sit down and we had an external firm helping us with this and just, okay, so we got to go back to our knitting. What does that mean for us? So then you've got to kind of build a strat plan around that. And when you downsize,
okay,
you got to let go of good people. And that was extremely difficult. Yeah. And
what year was that? Was that 2020 you downsized? Like what?
No, we sold in 2020. So we would have downsized in 18 after 17.
Okay. And then you sold, okay, so, and then what, those last 2 years was that?
2020
sold in the fall of 20, and 2020 was a make money year.
2019 was we've turned this ship around.
We're on the
We're on the up. Yeah. And then 2020 was an awesome, and we, again, were very fortunate throughout we were considered essential industry, and we were able to keep going. And I mean, COVID brought all its challenges of how do you manage a workforce and keep them healthy? How do you manage selling gravel to people and keeping those two groups separated, but yet supplying the companies with their gravel? And so that was a new challenge and interesting. But I mean,
but I'd still take my hat off to so many of the people that worked for us then too.
Yeah.
Like that whole when COVID all got going and all that hysteria around it and all the every day it was a new rule to follow or a new guideline or whatever you wanted to call it, and at that point you can look back now and you can say, well, that was a dumb idea and that was a good idea. Like those things made sense or didn't make sense.
Now,
but at the time you don't know.
Yeah.
Hindsight.
And so it was like, okay, well, we've got guys that are living out in camps, and what do you do when a guy gets sick? And you don't even know what the sickness is yet, right?
Well, and then
we're good at digging holes.
Really good.
But and a lot of our guys were like they're the 20 to 18 to 30 year age group, and they're guys that they're a rough tumble crowd at times, and they were amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was like if a guy got sick, he's like, I don't feel good, I'm sick. Okay, you go, you quarantine kind of thing. Who's been around him? Like everybody was like, I gotta say, like for the guys that we had, they were all really really mature in the way they handled the whole thing and supported the decisions that the company had to make. Because you can't just, as a company, you can't just go and say, you couldn't ignore it or stick your head in the sand and say, oh shit, this is
that
bullshit.
government
like,
was on your ass.
Well, and I think too, it's like, these people that put up their hand and said, I'm sick, they ended up being quarantined, not being able to work and not being able to make any kind of money. And at that point, it was still tricky. How does EI work? How does that all play out?
Right.
And some of these people were living paycheck to paycheck. So when they put their hand up, they knew they weren't going to be making money.
Yeah.
So again, we were, I don't think it's lucky. I think it's just you foster those good relationships with those employees, and they were great.
yeah, supervisors really stepped up, and
Yeah.
because it's always that supervisor or the foreman they're the ones that are in the middle of
Right. They got
getting bashed on by the upper management and getting
Yeah.
all the guys out in the field kind of thing, yelling and screaming at them kind of thing, like middle management hell kind of thing always, right?
Right.
And that's where our supervisors and foremen were always in the middle of it.
Mm-hmm.
And they did a great job.
So then you sold 2020. One of my final questions is, why didn't you you have two sons, my cousins.
Yeah.
There was no transition into bringing them into the family business and seeing where they could take it, or they had no interest? Because you obviously were starting to be sculpted to take over L&T and bring it into Mixcor, right? What was why wasn't that same process being done for
Well, it was the same thing. Like,
And I wouldn't say that they understood the business. Like they did their summers on the rock trucks.
Exactly.
They worked
with the crushers or
or the wash plant or with earthworks. Like they did all that kind of stuff in the summers to help put themselves, help with going through university and just working in the summers during high school and stuff. So they understood the operational side of the business for sure.
Yeah. But like I was never sculpted, and I was never even really enticed, let alone pushed to come into the company.
Right.
Because I was gonna go be an engineer, and I was gonna go be a pilot and do all this other stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And it was like, no, I enjoyed being in the field and crushing gravel and then going and looking for and talking with the farmers and hiring.
There was always that love.
And then hiring people and allowing our employees to have a place to grow and learn new skills and do all of that. Like I enjoyed all of that.
But
so that's why I recognized the opportunity that was there, and I'm like, no, I'm sticking around.
But you must have had a vision, because you did. I know for every person I've talked to that do exceptional things, they have a vision in their head, whether they told someone or not. So there's clearly a point when you're working there. It's like, this is going to become mine. There had to have been that. It wasn't willy-nilly. there was ideas started to come, and a step-by-step process in your mind must have happened, because just if you don't have that vision, then you're a boat without a destination with any favorable winds. It's an empty boat. It's an empty vessel, right? So you must have had a vision starting to percolate, right, in your mind of what I could do. Or
I saw other companies that are out there, and some are multinational, some are like regional kind of companies, and it's like, yeah, we can be this. Like, we can grow into these sizes,
Right.
or grow into being to have the sort of same breadth and vertical integration like these other companies and stuff are. Like, let's start heading this direction, kind of thing. In reality, we didn't become vertically integrated in the sense of having ready mix plants or having asphalt plants or getting into road construction and stuff like that.
But you did have.
But
You had a vision.
that was kind of that was a great direction to go. In reality, there was a really good, always becoming you can become bigger or you can become better sort of thing. And it was like, yeah, I also saw other companies that were small gravel guys, and it was like, what the hell are these guys doing? Like, it looks like shit, or they're really missing out on these kinds of opportunities or whatever. And so we situated ourselves to be really good at what we did. And that was going out, finding gravel, making strong relationships.
So the entrepreneur side of your brain started to engage.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, it's always.
And then it was,
it's
and
always
then
there.
you're in there, you're playing that game then, right? Like,
Game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of is. And then,
Yeah,
and for some
100%.
people, the game is, I just want to make another dollar. I got to make another dollar. And that's why I didn't generally get hit so hard. It didn't hurt me so much if we had a year where we lost more money than I ever thought we'd make. Because for me, I didn't define our success as to how many dollars we made all the time. Like, if we were doing things the right way and we were treating people the right way, and if I knew we'd always get the last call back from a customer, or we would get a recommendation from another landowner, to me, those were the wins that nobody could ever.
And you still have to
You
make
can't get them anyway. But
So,
then
like,
you still got to
people,
make
house,
money.
And then money? Was it people came first? And
I think the people did come first.
Yeah, to our detriment at times.
Sometimes to our detriment. Yeah.
Yeah. But also to, I
But
think,
you
to our
also
strength.
realize you can't. 100%. Yeah. I think to our strength as well, and I would say more to our strength than to our detriment. And at the end of the day, don't kid yourself. We wanted to make money. We wanted to make money. And honestly, you can be like, oh, it's the people, because it is the people, but you have no people.
it's called a mutual relationship.
Yeah, if you
You're
have-
making money,
Yeah.
it all rolls down.
Yeah.
Whoever's
You
under your
need to
banner.
make money.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's always in your mind, and chasing that deal was some of the best parts of it, right?
Yeah. No, and I've seen it in other people and companies go so many other directions. I've seen it where there's guys that are just assholes, and fuck me, they make a lot of money. And I've seen guys.
But
that
I don't
are-
want to. I
you
don't
know,
want to be in that
and I've seen
situation.
guys that are assholes and jerks that didn't make, at the end, they kind of got what they deserved,
Mhm.
and their house of cards falls apart and they get nothing. But they probably also screwed a bunch of people as well, and that.
Yo.
That really-
getting
that-
a bad reputation.
Yeah, and then I've seen guys that are great and never be able to put it together, never make money. People that are just so kind at heart or so willing to help, but they just, for one reason or another, it's just never worked into their favor all that
Yeah.
well financially.
Yeah.
So we're kind of in that middle ground.
We're
I think, right?
I get it, and I want to say lucky, but I don't think sometimes it's not
Well,
necessary.
no.
You got to have a little.
It's called
bit of
resilience.
starting line.
There's one thing I've seen. It's the one trait where when you're in the shit, it's like we're going to win. We're not going to lose. It's like we're going to find a way to win.
There's been there, and in 2017, 2018, and stuff like that, there were many hours put into that game plan. It's like, okay, yeah, this sucks, And at the end of the year, we're never going to make enough money to turn this around, and it's going to be a loss. What can we do the following year? And you literally have hours and hours and hours of energy putting into a plan to be successful. So it is resilience. And if you can't switch your mind over to woe is me and okay, all right, animals. If you can't get over the losses and try and turn it around into wins, then you should just stop.
You're a loser. A long line of losers.
You just gotta stop because it's not for you anymore. Yeah.
So my final question is: now that you sold the business, I'm sure your minds are not ones for not doing things. What are you gonna do? You're retired. You can do anything you want. You can, what direction are you gonna go in with all your free time? Because that's basically why we make money, is to buy time to do whatever we want to do whenever we want to do. That's like the whole point.
I think for the last 5-6 years of the business, because we were struggling and needed to turn it around, we put so much time and energy and so much of ourselves into it that there wasn't anything left over for fun. It was so incredibly draining that it was survival mode. So you would come home at night and you would just rest because you knew you had to go back and do it again for 14 hours the next day. And so we realized that was not the way we wanted to continue living our lives.
Yeah. So, and then now what? So what are you going to do? Because you need to have a hobby, you need to solve a problem. You have minds that are designed to solve problems.
Which is true. So I think for the first year after we sold the company, it was pretty labor intensive for me because you had to wrap up everything financially. So, that took a year. And then we were realizing that, okay, now we have the ability to go and do what we want to do. So we've kind of done stuff around our place that we wanted to do and just didn't have the time or the energy to do. So we rent out the house, building a shop, but we're allowed to travel now, and we're allowed to go and see other places and have different experiences in other places. So that's a big thing that we want to do. Travel.
Yeah, it's part of it. Yeah. We're lucky too. Still have lots of family in the area and stuff. We don't have so that always draws us back. Mm-hmm. We love where we live in this part of the world, kind of thing as well. We don't feel like we have to get the hell out of here, and don't need to change that scenery either. And
we still have a company, a couple companies. So there's a little bit of work with those companies, the Mix Group is a company.
But like land holding and rentals and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So
there's
cool.
Yeah, so there's that kind of stuff, which is kind of awesome still. It's just minimal, low key.
I go make sure the renters are happy. You make sure they pay the bills.
Yeah, and that's fun. And people ask us, and you're not the only ones. Okay, you're right. We do have that kind of mind where it's like, an entrepreneurial mind and stuff like that. But at this stage of the game, I don't want to be tied down to anything else.
So what's the hobby?
Whatever I want at the moment.
And what is that? And that is the question. What is that at the moment?
At the moment, it's learning another language and learning guitar and planning our travel trips.
Cool.
Yeah.
And Uncle Terry, your mind, what problems are you solving? World hunger? How to make super grain?
I'm not making any super grain, no. But yeah, I'm lucky. I've got the ability to go, burn 2 miles down the road and can go spend time, because my dad does still farm yet, with his younger brother, and so I get to be part of that, which is good. Don says I can't buy a combine, but
we're again.
We'll see.
I think that and I don't want to say we managed people. We worked with people for so long. We worked with landowners. We worked with other businesses for so long, and loved every moment of it. But I currently don't have the energy to go back into something like that. Maybe in a year or two, Terry and I'll find something that we're passionate about, and we'll be like, that's it. But right now, there's nothing like that. And I think if we didn't have that passion, and if I had the passion and Terry was willing to support me, or if he had the passion and I was willing to support him in it, that's when something else would happen. But
Cool.
yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
I guess that's the end. We got your story.
Yeah.
It's mine now. Story of Mixcor. Great. Thank you so much. That was awesome.
Thanks a lot, Ryan.
That was
Appreciate it.
freaking awesome, man.